hopefully you take something away from this video. It's not a Bionicle video. I have a mock here, if that's something you want to see, and I'll save it towards the end. But this is actually a sort of an advocacy video, I guess. Queer people, great, awesome. No, being queer is wild. It's hard to put into words sometimes, but I've often found comfort in stories from my youth. Obviously, things from my youth in general, and like finding myself in these fantasy worlds, in part because of escapism, right? Escaping the plights of your own reality and the people that might be causing you discomfort or harm or mental harm, whatever the case may be. But I was taught, I imagine many of us were taught by society, like, to grow up to be normal. Like, whatever the frame of reference for that was, I don't know. I live here in the United States, so what is that supposed to be? The American dream, whatever? I don't understand. But I knew growing up that I wasn't normal. Who is, right? Also, that'd be pretty boring. But generally speaking, it's like, it hurt in a lot of ways as I continued to discover myself throughout high school and well beyond that, because I definitely wasn't there yet then. Because in a lot of ways, I think trying to chase down this normal thought stunted me a lot, hurt me a lot, and sort of held me back. But also, even in a lot of unintentional ways, ultimately poisoned a lot of the relationships I did have with friends, with people that I cared about, and so on. Which is unfortunate. I myself am an introvert. I'm not somebody that typically like follows through with friendships. It's not to say that I don't love those people. I love and admire all the friends that I've made in my life, but I tend to sort of be one of those people that just stops texting after a while or whatever, because it's not the most important thing. I'll reach out to see if people are okay, but ultimately it's not out of a lack of love for those people. That said, though, I would often retreat, like I said, to these fantasy worlds, and it grabbed me that thinking about fantasy cliches and things like that there's one trope in fantasy worlds that I think spans probably all cultures to some degree, and it's the sort of slay the dragon, get the girl kind of story, right? You can find these types of stories all over. But generally speaking, the premise is easy to understand, right? Fight this unnatural thing, this monster, if you will, to rescue who you're supposed to ultimately be with. Because it's never just about rescuing the girl, right? This is your princess. This is the girl this is your prize, ultimately, though. And I find that kind of wild, right? It puts a lot of emphasis on you, but the thing you're supposed to do, not what you want to do. At the end of the day, why are we supposed to hunt the dragon? Why are we supposed to slay the dragon? It's wild, but the story goes, climb the hill, grab the sword, slay the dragon, rescue the girl. It all sounds romantic. It sounds simple. We know it's not. Obviously, if it was simple, then it wouldn't be a story, right? There's conflict there. But the dragon is nature. The pressure to conform is to follow that sort of natural order, to climb the hill, slay the dragon, as I mentioned. And ultimately, this is what everybody is supposed to do. This is what you're led to believe. But actually picturing the imagery of this is kind of gross, in my opinion. Like, think about it. A dark castle, gray walls, claustrophobic hallways. So what would grab your attention more than the flames of a dragon lighting this place up? Something you've never experienced before. A dragon that isn't a thing that exists, right? So it could be replaced by any other thing that you could easily be afraid of, but you could just as easily be enamored with, right? You could see it and think like, oh, this is beautiful. There's something interesting, fascinating here that I should explore. Everybody else is telling me to squash it, to kill it, to get rid of it. Hopefully you can see where I'm going with this. But in this story, the dragon represents a lot of other things. In my version of the story, my telling of the story, the dragon is also not just a dragon, it's color. It is colorful. And obviously we associate, at least here in the US, but probably elsewhere around the world, color with pride, with LGBTQ, with just existing in honestly an enlightened, more beautiful world, in my opinion. And I say enlightened through a very general sense, but anyway. So we're just supposed to slay the dragon, but take no time to understand it, sympathize with it, anything like that. Just slay it. Do whatever it takes to win the girl. And that's what she is in the story. is just a prize. The story ends after you slay the dragon. It has nothing to do with that girl, with who they are as a person, with their personality. You're just supposed to chase them, do the hard thing, but do the thing you're supposed to do and get them. And that's wild to me because, just as I go outside and I enjoy, it's autumn here where I live, and I get to see the leaves falling off the trees and the colors and everything changing and how beautiful it is. Hell, even the ambient color of like the atmosphere as the sun effect on the tilt of the earth change. Like, it's such cool stuff. It's little things like that I pay attention to. But general, the dragon is nature. If you left the castle, instead of having killed the dragon, revealing the dragon, taking the dragon out of the castle and revealing it to society, saying, hey, look, turns out this isn't dangerous. Yet they would still flee, right? Maybe not all of them. Obviously, some would be fascinated by this new thing they've never seen before. But ultimately, society was taught to fear the dragon, to be afraid, to run. And so society runs away from you revealing yourself. Ultimately, this is a metaphor for coming out in a lot of ways, right? Revealing yourself. Instead of staying boxed in, instead of running through the claustrophobic halls, the cold stone walls and gray walls of this castle, instead of only knowing this one world. A castle sounds cool, but it'd be boring if it's all you're supposed to be and exist within, right? Like, there's more to life than that. Doing the hard thing isn't slaying the dragon. It's what you're told to do. That's easy. How you approach it, that can be difficult. Sure, you can make it more complicated than it needs to be. But taking the dragon out, you were never supposed to do that. And that's what makes it hard. That's the wild thing about this, is by being yourself, you actually are doing the brave thing. And I really mean that as well. And that's not to say, if you're somebody that's LGBTQ, if you are somebody who doesn't know where you lie yet, who hasn't figured yourself out fully yet, and that's me, I'm 30 some odd years old, and I'm right there with you. I'm still figuring myself out. That's beautiful. Honestly, it's not only fine, it's the norm in a lot of ways. Maybe different ages, sure. I'm probably a little late to the party, but generally speaking, you should feel safe. And if the world doesn't make you feel safe, that's not your fault. It's not your burden. Realistically, yeah, life's gonna suck right now. It shouldn't, though. And that's what I hope you'll take away from this. It might suck depending on where you are, but it sucks because of other people, because of society, because of what they've been told, how they're told to treat you. And I want to let you know, too, that like the vast majority of people in the United States, at least where I live, are pro LGBTQ, or at the very least don't really care, don't mind it one way or the other. It is the minority of people, but the minority of people are often the most loud in this case as well. Because, well, there's many reasons I can get into that in a separate video. Point being, you should be taught to embrace who you are, and not being taught that is a failure of the world, not you. Okay? You should never deny who you are. You might not know who you are yet. And again, coming from me, I did deny who I was in high school and, well, beyond that. Not intentionally, but there were a lot of things that I was afraid of inside that I hadn't quite grappled with yet. I hadn't quite come to understand yet. Now I understand them more. And now I know more who I am. I'm more comfortable with who I am and where I am. I'm not quite there yet. I don't know exactly where the line is going to be drawn. That's okay. I'm okay with that now because I at least know, I'm aware that that's the case. In the past, I thought that storming the castle was the right way to go for myself. I was never outwardly like bigoted or anything, which is good. But I could see a reality where I could have been, And that's a scary thought, but thankfully it's not the reality I live in because I understand that it turns out I'm right there with everybody else. And hopefully that is the case for more people than just me. I do think that there are many people out there that often push hate against this community who may turn around in the future and find out that, hey, I only hated the community because I was one of them and I didn't know it yet, or I denied it for so long. I covered it up. I held back on it. I didn't let into who I really was. And that's an unfortunate life for them, but it's them. It's not you. It's their life. If they screw it up, you know, if they make the bad choices, again, that is a fault of theirs. So ultimately, be who you are. Be proud of who you are. It's not to say it's not easy. Sorry, it's not to say it is easy. And it's not to say you're not going to have rough days, because you absolutely are. But in general, they'll pass. And ultimately, you will find yourself in a place where life becomes easier because you gave into who you are. Because you learned that much more about yourself. Ultimately, the advocacy of this video is learning more about yourself, realistically. Because there's something beautiful in that. And it's always possible that you're not LGBTQ, but you can always be pro-LGBTQ, and that's awesome. Anyway, that's it for the video. If you enjoyed the content, please be sure to subscribe. Helps the channel out. Spread this one out if you think it's a good message. That's helpful too, I guess. And let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Please be kind to everybody else down there. Read those comments if you choose to do so from a place of understanding, and also understanding that not everybody, again, is at the same place you might be. And many people might also be further than where you are currently. It's all valid. It's all good stuff. All right, I'll see y'all in the next one. You can check out links for Discord, Instagram, Patreon down in the description below. And I mentioned having showcasing a mock or whatever. It's just a simple, silly little guy, but I thought he was kind of cool. And it's using that black Malum helmet I made, so I'm kind of happy with it. Interesting kind of color scheme going on here, but I don't hate it. So that's good enough, right? All right. Take care, everybody.